Welcome to Built to Win, the podcast created to help you level up your business game by creating a success mindset made for the long run. In this episode, Neora's Dave Fleming talks with Andrea Waltz, co-author of the best-selling book, Go for No, about the importance of persistence in finding a process that works for you. Andrea explains why the direct selling industry fits so well with the Go for No mindset and tells us how simple changes can bring big results.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to Built to Win. I am honored today to introduce you to our special guest and somebody that I've followed for many, many years, somebody that you may or may not know, but Andrea Waltz, who is the author of one of the top-selling, #1 best-selling book, as a matter of fact, called Go for No. And it's been an absolute game changer for a lot of people, and I am super thrilled that she is here on our podcast at Built to Win today. Andrea, thank you and welcome.
Dave, I am so glad to be here.
Well, we're glad to be here too, and I can't wait to dive into Go for No. But before we dive into the book and also what's coming next, because I know you've got some exciting news about what's next. But for those that don't know you or haven't followed Go for No, or maybe the first time they're hearing about this, tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are and what you do and what you're all about.
Sure. Well, I've been obsessed with the Go for No message for 25 years now. That's how long I've been in this game. I feel like a dinosaur. and and it started actually, I got a Bachelor of Science degree when I was in college in criminal justice. Didn't do anything with it. There were no jobs. I wanted to be a crime scene investigator, and they were like, well, you can intern for free. And I didn't want any part of that. I was ready to get in the working world. So I was working at LensCrafters while I was in college, and they promoted me up the ranks, and I was the youngest manager in the company, running a $3 million location. I was one of the general managers running the retail side of the company and the lab side of the business as well. And I met my husband, Richard Fenton, business partner, co-author, the creative one of the two of us. And he told me this story of Go for No. And I completely fell in love with it. I became obsessed. And so really for the last 25 years, Dave, I wake up every day with one question, which is, how do I get this message out to more people? That is my mission. That's what it's been, because I've seen how life-changing it can be. And I know we're going to talk about it. Other things about me, I have a 16-year-old, not child, senior dog, senior puppy dog, and a cat. I live in the swamps of Central Florida. It is very swampy out here. We have a pond in our backyard, which most of the time has an alligator in it, most days. And yeah, I'm a lover of personal growth and development, and binging Netflix is a problem. I will just admit it now as well.
Well, when you find a good show, I mean, who doesn't? I think we'll call that downtime, and you need time, right?
It's downtime. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, you can't be on all of the time. Although
Right.
When I see your work schedule and your travel schedule, it seems like you might be. But so tell me a little bit about like personal development. Were you a fan of personal development before you met Richard? Was that something that was kind of inherent in your personality, or was that something that you learned?
Actually wasn't. It was something I learned when I was in college. One of the classes I took was a class, and it's funny because it was in the criminal justice curriculum, and the entire class was based on Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. And
Okay.
I was reading through that book, and I was kind of like, I was really unimpressed. I was like, this is all really common sense, it's good, but my mind was really closed back then. I don't know what was wrong with me. I guess I was just maybe a sullen, a pseudo teenager because I was 19 or whatever, and wasn't ready for it. And then once I got in the working world, though, and I realized that learning didn't stop. Like once you graduate from school, once you're done with school, like the learning actually, they don't tell you this, the learning really begins. That's when you really need to learn things. And Richard turned me on to Zig Ziglar. And I remember that we bought Secrets of Closing the Sale, the CD program. And I became obsessed with that. And I fell in love with that. That was like the first personal development book, personal growth book I ever read or listened to. And then he turned me on to Jim Rohn, and he knew everybody. And I just was like, oh my God, I love this stuff. This is so good. And so I became a student of it. And once we launched our own business, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you've got to be listening to things that inspire you, grow you, challenge you. And so, yeah, all of those people and more have shaped me over the years. And thank God that he was really into it, because I don't know that if without personal development, without those mentors and teachers, that I would be where I am.
Oh, for sure. And we're big on this podcast about mentors and teachers and finding the right people to help you on your journey, whatever that might be. Um, I'm really curious. Like, is it okay to have favorites in this business? Do you have a favorite that you listen to?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I don't have a favorite. I mean, I guess I really also love Wayne Dyer.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think people go to him as he's not as businessy, but I really like the emotional intelligence, the spirituality, the yeah, he's just Wayne Dyer was amazing. Excuses Be Gone was one of his programs later that was so good.
Okay. It sounds like you keep up. I mean, you probably do. And for those that don't know, you have a pretty regular speaking schedule. Is that where you spend most of your time?
Yeah, I would say probably half my time is Richard and I speak together. We speak at meetings of all shapes and sizes, every business and industry we work with. We have done a lot of work in direct sales, just because if you own your own business, and we kind of tend to gravitate towards companies with independent business owners, because we look for people who really are in charge of their own destiny, who the income is not limited. The sky's the limit in terms of what you want to create, what you want to do. And so we speak to a lot of those type of organizations.
Okay. Well, which makes sense because when I first met you, I wasn't in the direct selling space. I was with a tech company out of Silicon Valley, and we were selling to a lot of direct selling companies. And so that's how I came in contact with you. And a lot of that was applicable not only for me but also for our clients and our software clients. So that was really cool to see too. Um, let's dive into the book. Like, some people may not be familiar with the book, but let's talk about Go for No. It's a bestseller. It's been around, like, how long has it been? You said 25 years, but how long has the book been out?
So, yeah, a couple things. One, let's just kick off this conversation, this part of the conversation, with a disclaimer. There might be some people listening to this who are like, go for no. I don't want to hear no. This is the stupidest concept on the planet. I want to get to yes. And I hear you. I hear you. But here's the thing is, if you want more yeses in your life, you've got to be willing and open-minded enough to get more no's. And so I like that we're digging into that, but I always have to have that caveat first. So Dave, what happened was we wrote Go for No in 2000. Richard and I launched our company in like 1997. At that time, we were speaking and training only to retail organizations, because that was our background. That was our comfort zone. We had expertise in that area. So anyone that you would if you walked through a mall, which I know some people don't know what those are. They're big buildings with lots of stores. And you would see anybody that you'd see in the mall was our client. We spoke to almost everybody, like the J.C. Penney and Macy's and all of the chain stores, the Buckle and Journeys, and everybody loved Go for No. And so we decided that we would write Go for No, the book. Richard wrote the initial draft in 17 days. I edited it. We polished it up. We sent it out. We sent 500 copies out to a mailing list that we bought and there was, of course, no Amazon back in the day. 500 copies to VP of sales, that type of person, somebody who had the authority and had a sales force of thousands of people, top direct sales companies. And we're thinking that this book is pretty good. So we're thinking that we're going to get inundated with orders, right? 500 copies go out. Nothing happens. It's crickets. We think the post office maybe just dumped the books in the garbage can or something. And finally, we get one order from a company. They order 50 copies because we in the ad that we put with the book, it was like order copies for your entire company, for your sales team, whatever. So we get this one order. So we're like, all right, the post office delivered the books. That's the bad news. That means that we got 499 no's. So we proceeded for the next 4 years to struggle getting Go for Now out. We kept sending books out to presidents and CEOs and decision makers. And it was just like nothing was going our way. Every now and then, though, it would get into somebody's hands, like an insurance agent or maybe a direct sales leader, and they would call us and order 10 copies or go like, this book is great. Are you guys in bookstores? And we would say no. And we were going to marketing seminars and trying to figure out like, there's got to be a way to break through with this book because we believed in it. And around 2005, we went to this seminar that was held by Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield, who were the guys who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul. And they were big in book. They got into like book marketing and helping people get a book out. And we always brought copies of Go for No wherever we went, and we would hand them out. Like we were just giving them out to whoever, hoping that maybe somebody knew somebody or something would happen, right? Just show up and just start getting the book out. And there was a guy in front of us. We were at this conference. There was a guy in front of us, and I overheard that he was in sales. It was our last copy. The conference was over. We were actually leaving. And I told Richard, I'm like, I think this guy is in sales. I'm going to hand him a copy of our book. So I was like, hey, do you want this book? You're in sales. And he's like, okay. He took it. And we get a call about 2-3 days later. And it's that guy. His name's Tom. And he goes, I have some feedback for you guys. Are you guys open-minded? Are you coachable? And we said, yeah, we're open-minded. What is it? And he goes, I want you to know that I read your book and I've read lots. He goes, I've read all the sales books out there. And it's probably one of the best books in sales I've ever read. But you guys have probably the worst cover in the history of publishing. We went, oh, okay. And he goes, so here's the deal. You guys need to change the cover. And he's like, and I'll pay for it. I'll buy 5,000 copies of this book from you. So just so I can hand out to customers and clients and friends. He goes, everybody needs this book, but we gotta fix it up. So Dave, that was one pivotal moment where we did actually hire a cover designer, like a legit cover designer, instead of because we did everything ourselves in the beginning. We had no money when we started our business. And so everything we did was honestly, it was on the cheap, and there wasn't Canva and there wasn't all these tools back then. So we designed our own book cover and we hired a designer, we spent the money, and that was a really good turning point. The second turning point was in 2007, where we finally got the book on Amazon, and that helped kind of get it out there, and people were starting to see it, and we could actually send people to Amazon who were interested in the book because they would go looking for it because we were starting to finally get some traction. Finally, on December 31st of 2010, so this is 10 years after we originally wrote it, we finally hit #1 on the sales and selling list on Amazon. So it took 10 years of us scratching and clawing and fighting and not giving up for that book to finally become successful. And ever since it hit #1, we've been in like the top 50 sales books ever since.
Yeah, I was going to say it's had a long term, like a big run. I don't know of a book or books that have had as long a run as yours has, which is really, really cool. So obviously it resonates. I'm really curious. I don't know that I ever saw the original book cover, but clearly whatever you did worked.
Yes. So yeah. So the original cover, yeah, was bad. As we learned, sometimes you don't know. And thank God that we, one, got that critical feedback, that somebody was honest enough to give it to us, and that we were able to make the change. Sometimes you don't know, and you just learn. There were many, many times we wanted to give up, and we questioned our sanity of just like, are we just banging our heads against the wall? Maybe this thing isn't this message, maybe this whole thing isn't what we think it is. Maybe we're just wasting our time. We didn't know, but I mean, we believed in it enough, but I have to tell you, a lot of doubts along the way.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it was like you spent 10 years kind of grinding. I guess there was enough that you saw and experiences like the one you just described that told you it's worth going. Because I think sometimes, especially in business and people who own their own business, sometimes you get to this crossroads and you're like exactly what you just described. Like, is it worth doing this? Like, is it worth keeping going on this, or is this as good as it's going to get? And I'm curious, like, if someone's in that spot, if someone's having that wrestle with themselves or with their business or whatever, what what would you tell them? Like, is the answer in the book, or is it just in
Yeah,
themselves?
yeah, I think the thing is, it's like you just never know what the thing will be that turns, right, that turns the whole thing around. And I'm not sure that I know that the book cover changing obviously was a pretty good pivot. But, there's that old saying of, if you're trying to break open a rock with a hammer and you hit the rock over and over and over and over, and it takes 1,000 hits to break this rock open, was it the 1,000th hit, or was it all of the hits leading up to that? So was it the one hit, or was it all of them? And I think what it is it's, I just wrote this. This is in my head. I just wrote this newsletter article. We do a weekly notivation, and I was talking about luck for St. Patrick's Day. And there's this idea of, this guy came up with this idea of increasing your luck surface area, which really is it's just basically your opportunities. So it's like, picture yourself standing in a room with a spotlight on you, and the spotlight's right on you. Well, how could you maybe expand that light, so that instead of just shining on you, it's shining it gets wider. That circle of light gets wider and wider. Increase your luck surface area. And really, when you think about increasing your luck surface area, and just think about maybe like a fisherman sitting in a boat casting one line, right? And trying to get one fish. Well, the one thing that we did all those years was we were constantly talking to people, and we had one mission. It was show people this book, get this book out. And so we spent money. I mean, we gave a lot of copies away, and yeah, that was expensive, and that was tough sometimes to do. We went to a lot of networking meetings. We went to tons of conferences. We were just always out there with this mission of get this message out. And so I think that, if people are struggling, it's how do you increase that luck surface area? Well, it's cast more lines out there. How many lines are you really casting for somebody to come along? And sometimes to keep going, it's not that you need that big giant whale to grab the line to say, oh, this is it, my career's made. I got that one person who said yes, so it's smooth sailing from here on out. It's not.
Sure. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes that happens, and we think like it's all changed. I remember when we got profiled in Success Magazine, I was like, this is it. Our career is made. We don't have to do anything else. We are going to be celebrities. No, it was very nice to be in there, but no, nothing changed. Even my parents were like, okay, anyway, what's for dinner? So,
Yeah.
right, that's just how it is. So I think the answer is you've just got to keep going, and understand that it's not that one big giant thing that you're looking for. It's all the little small things that you do every day, and those are the things that have to sustain you. You've got to look for those little yeses and go like, okay, got that. So I'm going to use that as fuel to keep going for tomorrow.
Yeah. No, I love that because I think a lot of people who aren't in business, who have never owned their own business, will sometimes think that it's one big break. And we talk about, and Jeff Olson, who's been on our podcast and one of the founders of the company I work for, is he wrote The Slight Edge, which is really, it's all
Right.
about that idea. It's like you keep
Yeah.
going, consistency, persistency over time ultimately gets you to where you want to go, which is exactly what you just described, which is super cool that someone in your space has been super successful, written this bestseller, and then also is living basically the same principle of The Slight Edge.
Oh, completely, completely. The slight edge is, I mean, that is a fundamental principle of life, of business.
I want to talk about like because you've been doing this for, you said, 25 years, and you've talked to a lot of people. I want to talk about like what have you seen happen in the people that you've talked to? You gave us a couple of anecdotes, but what are some of
Yeah.
your favorite success stories that you've seen over these years?
Yeah, yeah. I'm so many. And the funny part, and this is gonna sound, oh man, this is gonna sound so self-congratulatory. I hate the way this sounds, but um, I have people who write us all the time, and this is actually what makes me excited to wake up in the morning. And they always say, like, "Go for no change my life." The stupid thing that I've done is I never ask them how. So I'm always like, "Oh, I love to hear that. That's great. Thank you so much." The thing is, Go for No didn't change their life. They changed their life. They read Go for No and they were ready for the message. I was in that class and read Habits of Highly Successful People. That is a fundamental, that book is so fundamental to success. And I looked at it and I was like, I don't get it. This is kind of lame, whatever. You know, People have to be ready for the message. And so people who take Go for No and they go like, "Oh wow, I get it. This is what I'm going to try. This is what I'm going to do." They're the ones who change. It's crazy how people like us, authors and people who write stuff get credit. We don't deserve any of the credit. We didn't do any of the hard work. We didn't have to face down a no. We didn't have to have the courage to make the asks that person had to make. So that's why I hate saying it, because it does sound so self-congratulatory. But I have heard that so many times, and every time my heart just wants to burst because I love it so much. I'm so honored, and so I feel it's so great that people have changed. One of the coolest success stories I will tell you is probably somebody that Ray Higdon, who is a big trainer in the network marketing direct sales space. He talks about Go for No all the time and how he went out and just decided he was going to hear 20 no's. That's what he was going to do. He was just going to get 20 no's a day. He didn't care how, from who. That was what he was going to do. And he became obsessed with it. While alongside that, he was also doing marketing, like putting out videos and doing things to attract people to him. He also knew that he needed to move quickly in the prospecting game. He wanted to also be out doing some outbound stuff. And so that's where kind of Go for No came in. And he became top earner in his company at the time and became very successful, and then launched his own thing. And he's since become wildly, wildly successful. And he talks about that all the time, about how he hated prospecting. He didn't want to go talk to all these people, but he also knew that if he just detached from the outcome, just went out and found people who were open, just asked them, "Hey, are you open to taking a look at something?" And if he did that enough times and got 20 no's a day, that he would get those yeses. And so I think that a couple of really important distinctions, for a lot of people here Go for No, and they think like all the philosophy is it's just numbers game. It's just about getting out there and suffering and going through the numbers. And that's the most surface level part of it. What I've learned, and you asked the question, like, what have I learned over all these years, is um, that there's so much underneath that. There's so much mindset underneath that, of not prejudging people, not hiding behind technology, like going out there and having conversations and learning how to get better at communicating and asking the right questions and reading people. All of these are skills. And it all requires you to have the mindset that you're not going to be afraid. You're not going to let rejection stop you. And so that's the biggest thing I want people to walk away with when they think about Go for No isn't, oh, it's just a numbers game. Get over it. You need to do more numbers. Yeah, most people need to up their numbers. It's just a fact. It's just reality. Okay.
Mhm.
You talk to 3 people. I'm sorry. It's just not enough. But it's not all that. It's really about developing the courage to face whatever is out there that's holding you back.
Okay. No, I love that. So it ultimately comes back to you might be the spark that gets somebody to change their mind or to think about things differently, but ultimately it's still their responsibility to go do it.
For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Is this something that is this something that takes a long time, or is this something like you mentioned, like Ray Higdon? And Ray Higdon, if you don't know who Higdon is, he has a huge business, talks about marketing and sales, and like you said, very very successful. But it sounds the way you told the story, it sounded like he just decided that he was going to change his mindset. Is it that simple, or does it take time? And I know that's a loaded question, but I want to
So
hear.
loaded. I love the question. I love the question. The answer is yes. Yes, it's that simple. Yes, it takes time.
Yeah,
Sadly,
exactly.
right? Um, I've seen so many people go, there's almost like 3 camps. There's 20% of the people who hear Go for No and they logically get it and they go, wait a minute, you're right. I just need to stop fearing no and just be willing to hear no more often. And if I just did that, if I just asked more, I think a lot of people would either say yes to me, or maybe I would at least make some headway, towards my goals, towards the thing I'm trying to achieve. So yeah, I'll just do that. Yeah, duh, I should have thought of that, right? There's 20%. And then you have 20% who hear it and go like, oh, I no, I just can't do it. And they get it logically, but they're so held back by something. And I've seen these people and they reach out to me and they try and struggle with it. They believe that it's an answer for them, but they're just so unwilling to let themselves be that vulnerable and to fail. Really, what it comes down to is I think they're terrified of failure, and they have a serious issue with perfectionism and probably a whole host of other things that I'm not qualified to even right even get into. And then Dave, you've got the 60%. And that's, I think, where the majority Ray's in the top, Ray's in the 20, right? He's an animal. And there are people like that. And those people are almost the people where when we speak, they come up to us after the meeting and they're like, hey, I'm so glad you're here. I don't have a problem with no. I hear it all the time. And they're usually the leaders and they're like, I'm good, but everyone else needs this message. Because you've got the 60% who get it on a logical level. And then they sit down and they're like, okay, I'm going to call that person I met at that thing. And then they go like, wait a minute, I don't know that maybe this is the wrong time. I don't want to bother them. I think she said she had 3 kids. She's probably super busy today. It's summer. She's probably not even home. They're probably on summer vacation, right? And so they talk themselves out of it. And these are people that usually have some varying degrees and levels of success, but Go for No is a challenge and it's a struggle for them. And it's something though that I can tell you honestly that it's this is not the numbers game part, but this is the exposure part, that when you push yourself, you kind of push yourself to the big shoot into the pool. What is that called? What is it? Not a diving board, a slide, right? You go down
Uh-huh.
the big slide into the pool. You got to push yourself, and that's more what those people need. And so those are the typical the people that sign up for like my Go for No challenge, where they want some accountability. They need that person to kind of just push them and hold them accountable to what they know they want. They just still have some fear going on.
Okay. Is that something You mentioned this because I think is that something that you can talk people out of yourself, or is that one of those things that they've just they've just got to mentally get there themselves?
Yeah, it's they totally have to get there themselves. And when I coach people on, like, one of the things that I coach people on is self-management, right? It's literally creating a day, creating your day and setting yourself up for success. And my personal belief, and this is how it's kind of like, how do you implement Go for No? Like, when do you do it, right? How do you set up your day so that your day is a successful one? And what I see happening out there is all the gurus come out and they're like, you know what? You need to get up at 4 a.m. You need to do the cold plunge. You need to then meditate. You need to do this and that. And I am all for, I think those things are all amazing. I'm not saying that they aren't. But when I talk to people, I say, I want you to create your perfect day. And what we're going to do is we're going to have you think about your perfect day, and then we're going to insert where you believe you could start going for no into that perfect day. And then your job is to live into that perfect day. I'm not going to set it for you. I'm not going to tell you you're up at 4, you're cold plunging, you're doing this or that. I want you to decide, when do you eat breakfast? When do you need to take your kids to school? When do you want to go for no? When do you set aside your time where you're going to build and work on your business, on your thing? And because it doesn't matter what I think is the right schedule, it doesn't matter what I think are the reasons for your fear, it doesn't matter what I think are your issues. And believe me, I have opinions on all of those things, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But I'm all about pulling out from people, like, you have all the answers in your head. You know all of it. You know why you're doing these things. You know what the secret is of getting around them. So I try to help people come to those conclusions on their own.
Okay. Yeah, and I personally I believe that's really the kind of the best way, maybe the only way to get people to take on long-term sustainable
Long-term,
change.
consistent, yeah, consistent, sustainable change. It's got to be what works for you. So when it comes to implementing Go for No, it's, you got to do it the way it works for you. And the only caveat I have to that is, you've got to set up some guardrails and have some reminders. The books on the bookshelf don't get read. The open book that's on your bed, or the Kindle that's sitting on your bed, gets read, or the podcast that's queued up, right? We've got to do things and put things in our visual field and in our space to make sure that we do them. The gym clothes can't be folded up in the dresser. Like, pull them out, right? And have them right there. I think that helps with creating those habits. But that stuff is, I think, helpful. And I don't think that's prescribing the lifestyle. That's what I think is sometimes can trip people up, is prescribing a lifestyle that just doesn't work for you.
Yeah. Yeah, because you like it's got to be real. It's got to be authentic. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Um, let's talk about like, and I know you've got some exciting things coming. Um, can you give us a little preview of like what's next for Go for No? Do you have,
Yes. Yes. So let me just tell everybody, the book Go for No is a fable, by the way, which I think might be part of why it's resonated with people, over the years. Is it's short, so it's an easy read, and it's a fable, and it's about a guy who is a pretty average sales person. He sells copiers for a living, and he wakes up one morning, goes to bed. He has this crazy dream. He wakes up one morning, and he is in a house, a beautiful house, and he discovers that the house belongs to a wildly successful 10 years in the future version of him. His name's Eric. Eric James Bratton is our main character. And he comes to realize that he's traveled somehow 10 years in the future, and this is this wildly successful version of him. And they meet together. And the book kind of follows the two of them as they try to figure out what makes this 10-year in the future version so successful. Like, because the average him is like, what did I do to get so successful, right? I better figure this out, of how this other me gets 10 years in the future so successful. And the secret, as it turns out, is Go for No. and they both kind of heard a go for no story, but the successful version of him actually implemented it. That's kind of the key there.
Hmm.
So we're writing a sequel, and I've been hinting at with Richard, we've been talking about it forever, but we felt like, you know what? It's been 25 years. Like, let's come out with the sequel. And the sequel now is our main character, Eric. He's back. He's in his 50s now, and he has a daughter, and she's just graduated from college. She's totally lost. She doesn't know what she wants to do. He convinces her that to get some work experience, that she should come and sell for him, sell speaking engagements for him because he's a speaker like us. And she hates it. She's no good at it. She hates selling. She doesn't think she can do it. And then Eric ends up trying to buy this dream purchase of his, and it's a golf course. And it's the same golf course that was involved in the first book. And anyway, Eric and his daughter kind of go on a go for no, a little bit of a go for no adventure together, where they both, Eric has to start going for no again now, and she has to learn how to go for no, but she has to do it in her own way, not kind of his antiquated way. So it's allowing us to revisit some concepts. It's allowing us to share a few different new concepts that we've always wanted to, although we like keeping these things short. So there's still so many lessons we could have packed into this book that we didn't, but I'm hoping that people will like to pick up on the journey and see what happened to the main character and see his daughter now.
No, I love it. It's go for no, like the next generation.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
Super, super cool. So where can we find the next one?
Yeah, so it's coming out in a few weeks. So based on whenever you're listening to this, I'm guessing it's probably out, or if it's not out yet, it will be. And I would love people to come to goforno.com. We've got a really fun free quiz where people can find out what their no quotient is. We we know what IQ is, intelligence quotient, right? And you hear about EQ, your emotional quotient. Well, what is your no quotient? What is your feeling about failure and rejection and success and how all of that works together? Well, you can take a really fun, easy quiz, and I have videos where I explain to you if your no quotient is high or moderate or low, and then the steps that you can take to remedy that if you need help in that area.
Very, very cool. Yeah, great quiz. And also you've got a newsletter on the site too, right? I know I get my daily notivation in my
Motivation. Yes.
yeah,
The motivation. Yes.
very, very cool. Um, well, that's awesome. And Andrea, thanks so much for coming on and talking to us about Go for No and everything that you've got going on. It's great to have you on here, but also I think it's going to be really, really helpful for our listeners because I think what my last question, then I'll let you get on your way
Yeah.
because I know you're super busy. What would you tell somebody who's like, well, okay, this is all about sales and this is all about going for no. I'm not a salesperson.
Yeah, I love that question. I would say this. I would say that everyone has goals and dreams and things that they want to achieve in their life. It could be something really small, something in your neighborhood. Maybe it's something big. Maybe it's some legacy thing that you want to build for your family. It doesn't matter what it is. What happens when we are operating with the kind of a go for yes mindset is we say no to ourselves. So instead of being willing to ask for help, for resources, whatever from other people, instead what we do is we give ourselves the no. So just don't assume what anybody will decide or do. If you're going after a dream or a goal of any kind, just tap into that courage and be willing to ask. The worst they can say is no, and at least you did it and you didn't give yourself the no, because that's probably the worst kind of no to get, is the one you give to yourself. So don't make those assumptions and just get out there and ask.
Love it. Love it. Great way to wrap it up. Andrea, thank you so much. And best of luck on the next chapter, the next generation of Go for No. That's really exciting. I'll be one of the first to check that out.
Thank you, Dave. And let's hope it doesn't take 10 years to hit number one this time.
No, I'm sure it won't. I'm sure it won't. You have way too many fans out there now.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, Andrea. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time on Built to Win.
That was Dave Fleming talking with Andrea Waltz about how going for no can open the doors to success. We hope you've enjoyed this episode, and if you learned something from it, please share it with a friend or colleague who you think would also benefit. And if you're new to Built to Win, we invite you to go back and listen to our story from the beginning. You can find us wherever you download your favorite podcasts. And while you're there, please rate us and leave a review to let us know what you think of the show.